Yeah, so autonomy, if I may add something, autonomy is very subjective. So it's not something we can give to someone else. It's completely, so I mean, there are moments, and I've shared this with you, Christiane, I think I've shared it with the others, but I'm practicing, it's called feminine communication. I don't necessarily recommend the teachings, though they're fascinating if you want to look at how to have a polarized message and piss people off in your marketing.
So stay tuned, and Amy may have something launching.
But I'm practicing permissive-based communication. So asking permission, and I'm taking it to the extreme at the moment, asking permission for everything when I remember. And I'll admit that I often don't remember because it's very outside of my conditioned approach. Now, that in theory, what it's meant to do is if I'm asking permission, it's meant to create autonomy in the other person. So if I say, may I ask you to do this? They say yes, and they've got the choice.
I really feel like that's a manipulative thing.
Well, and that's where I was going, I'm using the right words, but if the energy is slightly off, my husband doesn't feel autonomous. He feels manipulated. And so but that's because we can't give autonomy to anybody else. And I'm being manipulative, quite frankly.
I can see Matt going, yes, you may ask. No, you can't have that, or whatever.
We haven't got to that. I'm waiting for that. We haven't. But so autonomy is completely subjective. Completely subjective. And when we try to create autonomy in someone else, we become manipulative. Either they have autonomy or they don't, but because it is so subjective, and I know when I'm doing this permission-based stuff, Michael doesn't feel like he's got a choice. He's still trying to play, like our dynamics of the last 20 years are still in play in terms of does it raise his autonomy? Fuck no. Is it changing other things? Yes. And which is why I'm continuing to play with it. I committed to a week originally, and now I'm like, I'll do this for a full month and just see how it goes. And I think we're now into a week of doing it. But we can't give autonomy to someone, and that's why everyone focus on the sticker charts and the rewards and everything, because that's something that we can manipulate, for want of better language. Welcome, Frederick. We're talking about how I manipulate my husband. More accurately, we're talking about the self-determination theory and that we can't give autonomy to somebody else. But how I manipulate my husband is as good a tagline as anything. So yeah, society's focus is definitely on how. So the other thing that we can't really make anybody feel, we can't make anybody feel anything. The other thing, thank you. The other thing, manipulation's working, I've got to tell you.
He feels autonomous because he initiated it. You can first say, I feel happy that I got tea or something.
I smiled. I did smile. And he doesn't need words. He just needs the response. We've had these conversations. The relatedness is hard to give to someone as well. And I'm thinking more of this from my own perspective. It's like we are the same. I don't feel relatedness in whatever it is generally. So I try and manipulate him into autonomy. He tries and manipulates me into relatedness. And we have a much healthier dynamic than I'm currently portraying of our relationship. But it can't be given. And so, which is why they focus on the rewards, the punishments, and all of those, because they are in our control. But autonomy, competence can't be given either. Competence is something that someone has to, like we can teach people, we can help them develop competence, but at some point it's got to come from internal. How I got on that rant, but I appreciate it. And it's fascinating to me. But I think that's why society focuses on, because we can control the rewards, we can control the punishments. We can't control autonomy, competence, or relatedness in anybody other than ourselves. Thoughts, feelings, and we can go back to insights from the videos. It just, yeah, that was what popped up in my mind just then.
Go, Leanne.
Yeah. I was just looking at some of my notes I'd written, and it's saying that it's satisfaction for optimal wellness performance. And I had just written a little note in the side there going, I wonder how this relates to depression, because I get that, like, they talk about the need for connection for psychological wellness. And I get that the competence side perhaps is that spiral of I'm not feeling good enough and I can't do anything, and etc. And then I went to the autonomy, and because it says volition and choice, I don't know, that just didn't sit well with me with depression. I'm sitting there thinking,
as in the lack of it causing depression, just to
yeah,
clarify what you're meaning.
Yeah. So I was sort of, I don't know, I'm sitting on the fence on that one.
So if we feel, and they definitely, in my map at least, have a strong correlation. If any one of these is missing in a significant number of areas of our lives, depression is almost inevitable. Autonomy is our perception that we have choice. And one of the reasons it doesn't land so well for coaches is we know we always have choice. Like our map around this, it's like we are always acting at cause. We always have choice, but it's the perception of choice. And so if someone, this morning I cleaned the kitchen, and I cleaned the kitchen in delight. And I was thinking about these as I was doing it. I'm like, well, I've got autonomy. I chose to clean the kitchen. I don't feel like I'm being made to. I don't feel like I have to. No one else is going to care whether I clean the kitchen or not. It's completely my choice to do it. And we have a cleaner. I have other other people will clean. So it was completely autonomous, and I felt like I had choice. Now, there are other days where I clean the kitchen and I don't feel like I have a choice. I buy into beliefs like if I don't do it, no one else will. I buy into beliefs of nobody else cares. Nobody else cares means nobody else will do it. So I don't feel like I've got autonomy. I have to do it because somebody has to do it, and the only one that's going to do it is me. Nobody else cares. I don't have relatedness. And I probably have always maintained a level of competency of cleaning the kitchen. You take away autonomy and relatedness, I get bitter, I get resentful, I get depressed.
You just answered the question of, I've never felt delighted when cleaning anything. Like, how does that
Well, you meet these too. I feel like I'm choosing to clean this. And I was choosing, like I looked and I went, yeah, that's messy. But there was no obligation in me. There was no, and I know you and I have talked about how I've noticed I feel compelled a lot recently. Like as I'm tapping into my feelings, compulsion. There was no compulsion. There was just, oh, look, this looks like fun and I can do this. And I get that sounds weird, but my husband cleaned the desk yesterday. So I walked into the kitchen. I also opened the drawers, and he's put a non-slip mat in the drawer. So when I opened the drawer to get my coffee mug out, the cups stayed where they were meant to. And instantly I'm like, oh, look, he cares. He cares about me. He's working hard to make the kitchen tidy. At which point I had copious amounts of relatedness despite him not being there. But I opened it and it's like, oh, look, I'm not on this journey alone. There is hope. I can choose to clean the kitchen.
And there's the other reason I've never felt delight. Wow, amazing.
I reckon at some point we may just role play. I've just done it for housework, but we can role play this through anything we're not feeling motivated for. And that's where
exercise at some point would be great. Cooking at another point would be great. And I imagine the same things are coming up, but anyway.
What were you going to add, Leanne?
So if it's about perception of choice,
yes,
does drive motivation come into it? or not?
Tell me what you mean by drive motivation.
So when I hear the word autonomy, which is internal volition, wanting to take action or believe something, in related to depression, I'm sitting there going, is it just the perception, or is it like
So depression's complicated because sometimes it's our mental perceptions. Sometimes it's a chemical imbalance that's screwing us up and changing our perceptions. And I just want to make that really clear for anybody coming. I don't think that depression is always solved by just mental stuff, and please seek out help, because I know these recordings are going out to other people. So just my disclaimer here.
I'll take depression to the side then. I guess volition, the word volition is what I'm playing with then. And is that a perception, or is that an energy of motivation, drive?
Oh, okay. So I just Googled volition and I've gone to the dictionary, which I keep doing a lot recently. I don't know where I've picked up that habit from, because normally I just give you my own meaning, but I'm currently into the dictionary. So volition, according to the dictionary, is the faculty or power of using one's will. Autonomy is the right or condition of self-government. Now, the way I would decode that to human is we feel we have a choice. We feel that we're doing it based on what we want to do. So I feel like volition is the result of having autonomy, not necessarily a definition of autonomy. And so if we feel we have choice and we're choosing to do it, we're more likely to act on it and take and move. So this morning I walked into the kitchen. I had my choice, I had my relatedness, but I had my choice. So I walked into the kitchen, I had choice the entire time. It wasn't until I opened the drawer and was reminded of the relatedness that I actually felt inspired to do something. Now, the competence was there the entire time, but so I walked in and the choice was there the entire time. I could clean the kitchen, and it was I could, not I should. And there's a huge difference in the I should clean the kitchen. That's not an autonomous thought. That's a self-pressure. I feel weighed down by it. I could clean the kitchen. And there was I could clean the kitchen. So there was the choice. But at that moment, the choice was not to clean the kitchen. It's like I could clean it, but I'm not really feeling inspired to. Open the drawer, add in the relatedness. And I'm like, oh, I will. And now it's gone from I could to I will. And I know it sounds ridiculous, but it's not one or the other. It's the three. Autonomy plus competence plus relatedness equals motivation.
So if can I
go for it, Frederick?
Yeah.
So because I was looking at so autonomy, right? Okay, so if you go back to volition, I'm just looking at the meanings as I'm thinking about it. It says the power of choosing. So the volition is you've got the choice there through what you were explaining. You've got the choice. And the autonomy is a person's ability to act on his or her own values and interests. So its autonomy is then the choice is always there. There's always a choice to do it or not to do it. And the autonomy part is you, I think I see it as like innately, like you're then choosing, you're acting to choose, you're going to take the action. So the choice is there. The choice is always, do I open that cupboard or don't I? That's always there, right? Do I clean? Do I not? Do I cook? Do I not? The choice is there. The autonomy is whether I do it, whether I choose to do it or whether I don't.
So no, the autonomy is, do you perceive the choice? The volition is, do I do it or not? But the autonomy,
what does that mean?
So, and this is where coaches stumble on this a little bit, because we've always got choice. You just said it. It's like the choice is always there. It doesn't always feel like it. So have you ever walked into, and I know I'm beating the cleaning the kitchen to extremes, But have you ever walked into the kitchen and felt like you had to clean the kitchen? So the difference between I could and I should is where autonomy sits, because it's the perception of choice. We always have choices. And as coaches, we know this. It's like, well, we always have the choice, but we don't always feel like we have the choice.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I get you.
And so autonomy is, are we aware that we have choice?
So, for example, I can't use the kitchen because that would be, if you said that to my husband, he'll be like, yes, because that's his baby. So he would feel,
so
he'd feel like
then
he has to
encroaching
do it.
on.
But even like and the limiting belief bits that you said, like, for example, I was sweeping up yesterday, and that was autonomy because I wanted to, because I just wanted to have, like, it's like, what's the point? You can sweep after the kids eat because they're going to drop it anyway. But I want to eat when there's like nothing on the floor first, like just a bit tidy. So I was sweeping.
You could perceive that there was a choice and you chose to do it rather than I have to do this before we eat for whatever reason.
And I chose to do it. And in that moment, he's like, because he's environmental brought upness, whatever. So he's like, don't flick it this way. You've got to do it this way because it splashes this anyway, whatever. Like,
and I imagine your motivation started to decrease.
That's right.
So you had autonomy.
Like, well, you do it.
Yeah, so you had autonomy. Now you have competence, but you probably didn't feel like you had competence in that, because don't do it that way, do it this way starts to question, am I competent at this? And you also didn't have relatedness because he wasn't delighted. It's like, yeah, you're cleaning the kitchen. Great. You sweep, I'll wipe the bench tops over.
Yeah.
And so while you had autonomy, the competence and the relatedness dropped. And again, it's the perception of these things, not the actuality of these things. Because your competence didn't actually drop, just your perception of competence, because you were starting to be given a different measuring stick. If Michael had to come in and told me that I was cleaning the kitchen wrong, A, he would have been told to fuck off, and B,
there was some of that in there too.
It would have decreased my motivation, because now I don't have competence, or I don't perceive competence, and I don't perceive relatedness. If Michael sees me cleaning the kitchen, he's generally like, yay, great job, and he disappears before I give him a job. Like,
but it's so, I guess, because it's not consciously thought of. Like, I wasn't
never conscious
feeling or thinking that way. All I thought was like, if I go back, I would have,
you got to, if you do it yourself
with this shit, you do it. That's where I got
and
to.
there's you drop in motivation. It's like, I was feeling good about sweeping the floor, and now without the competence and then the perception of competence and then the relatedness.
Oh, that's super interesting, because hence why then, like, so the autonomy of wanting to clean was still in me, believe it or not, because I know, I could see Christy going, what?
Yeah, she doesn't believe it. I believe you, Frederick.
Because I don't think I've ever experienced this, but go on.
I experienced this once in my cycle. That's what happens once a month.
There's 2 time frames where it'll pop up quite commonly in the cycle.
And so, so that hence why once the house is down and asleep is when and there's no one around is when I do it in my home. So I'm up till like 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
To
so
reset
you're then not challenged, because no one's telling you you're doing it wrong. And frankly, cleaning with kids underfoot requires a massive level of competence, and the challenge of them just being present is
a waste of time.
So the competency is challenged just because of the art form of needing to manage to parent and clean concurrently. So there's a higher level of competence to do it with the kids up. But also the relatedness. If they're all in bed, the only people in the kitchen is you. So all you need to do is relate to yourself and inspire, and it doesn't matter because they're all gone. And so where we don't have people on the same journey as us, we want to get away from them to do the thing we want to do. Not all the time, because there's other things that we will do with them. But if we don't have the relatedness, I find, so one of the reasons I struggle with going to scrapbooking weekends, because I go and I want to work on my computer, I want to do business stuff, I want to write, which is my creative expression, but none of them are doing it. And I feel like I don't fit in. They're all working on scrapbooking and they're very judgmental. And so there's not the relatedness of it. It's like, why would you want to work on, because this is how I express my passion and but none of them relate to it. So I've lost relatedness. In terms of writing effectively and consistently, my competence level is kind of like at a medium level. And so I don't feel like I've got the competence. And then by the time the relatedness is gone, my autonomy is like, I don't want to choose to do this. I want to choose to do something else. And so all three disappear. And so I know not to take that kind of stuff with me on those weekends now, because I'm not going to be motivated. I'm not going to get stuff done. I used to be the most productive person at those weekend retreats when I was working on what everybody else was. What I need to do is go to a book writing retreat and be surrounded by people writing books.
So is this where the relatedness, is this where then the idea of society talks about the kids, they've been too I don't know what the word is, but when you overpraised, and so this is why it's produced these type of people now, right? I don't know, the people so that's where the praise comes in, rather than, so say you see something good, then you say oh wow, you're praising them for the good rather than noticing the bad. Like the idea is, I can't really I'm not getting language right, but
no, I get where you're coming from. It's the that everyone gets a trophy mentality.
Yes.
Or that everyone gets participation awards.
Yeah, that thing. And so is that where I guess this is where this has come from, praise your child, do all that, but can that then be taken too far? And that's where that gets taken to the, they get a trophy for showing up.
So if we look at what it takes away, because it often is demotivating. So the idea was that everyone getting a participation trophy would be motivating. Everybody getting the same results would be motivating in essence, and so not the same results, the same rewards would be motivating. What intuitively I sense it strips away is the perception of competence. So if I run a race and I am at the end, and I'm not running a race, but if I run a race and I'm at the end first, and the reward is the same for me and the person that comes in 10 minutes later last, I don't know how far the race is, but whatever, my perception of competence is challenged because I ran the race faster. Clearly I'm better. I want to be rewarded based on my level of competence. This person that came last also feels demotivated because you've just put me on the same page as that other person. And there's not a degree of competency being measured. So our perception of competency is destroyed. Someone just put a comment in. Come off mute and say whatever it was because I can't see the comment.
I said, does that breed mediocrity then? Why bother to excel if you're competent and capable?
Well, it'll breed the mediocrity, but my competency isn't being recognized.
So why bother? It goes back to that.
And then we get back to I'm no longer motivated.
So
the other question is, how much autonomy did they have running that race in the first place? So we're going to line up 10 kids and make them run a race. How many of them are choosing to do it because they want to and feel they have choice? She has autonomy. How many are choosing to do it and feel that they have a choice? You line up 10 kids and say you're going to run a race. How many of them feel like they can go, I don't want to, and sit down? So their autonomy is stripped from them because they're all being made to do the same thing. competency or the perception of competency is stripped from them. There's probably relatedness on some level, but there's possibly not related. So some kids will love running the race. Some kids won't love running the race. And so they'll have relatedness in their little, oh, we love running. This is amazing. And then there's the we hate running. But as a group, there's not relatedness across the board. So all three are stripped away in that. There's no autonomy because I feel like I have to run the race or do whatever exercise is being put in front of me. There's not a good perception of competence because it doesn't matter what I do, I'm going to get a trophy. So why bother? And the relatedness is probably off as well. So yes, I think it would be why it didn't work. The theory was good, but the practical application failed miserably. And this is a model that we could look at it through.
So what's coming up for me is translating that to the workplace, because that's what I do. And salaries, like awards, for example. So let's just go with a forklift driver's a grade, whatever, and it pays X dollars per hour. And everyone gets the same 2% pay rise or whatever award increase and all this sort of stuff. And perhaps there's different levels within that to take into account seniority and skill level and so on. But essentially, if we're doing the same job and I'm doing, I don't know, picking 10 pallets an hour and you're picking 15 pallets an hour, so you're doing 50% more, we're getting paid the same, that can breed a level of resentment and, oh, this is, I'm working so much harder, why are we getting paid the same? Well, and where's the recognition for that as well?
Yeah.
So I'm also
demotivation.
Yeah, it will create demotivation.
Well, I'm also conscious and that what was going on in my head is that starting to sound like extrinsic rewards too, like when we're talking about the money and all this sort of stuff. So
there was a line at the end of the Desi video where he said,
was that the first video?
Yeah,
the old dude in the car.
The old dude. Yeah, I wasn't going to call him the old dude. I was avoiding saying those words.
All right, you managed to do that.
I did think that was the easiest way to describe it. And I'm like, surely I can describe it better. Clearly I can't. Yes, the old dude in the cardigan. And he said at the end that extrinsic motivation can become intrinsic. And I think this is a really common, so Michael gets paid really well for doing what he does, driving trains. He's not doing it for the reward, but he's happy to accept the reward. And I don't know how well it aligns with competency because, I mean, he's got promotions out of that. But I'm just thinking, William yesterday got paid 6 hours of overtime for sitting on my couch. He did 5 minutes work and got paid because there's a 6 hour minimum shift. So if they do anything, and if it's cancelled too close, so he picked up the car the night before, he had to take the car back in the morning, but his shift had been cancelled and he's sitting on his couch doing nothing for 6 hours. I'm like, I don't know how that relates to competency because there was not a huge amount of competency. Well, yeah, so, and in that moment, it sounds really weird, but it's so they can't book you in for a shift. So he'd cancelled something to be available for that 6 hours and they cancelled it an hour beforehand. So it's if they cancel the shift within a certain time frame, they get paid. And they've got a 6 hour minimum shift. Because otherwise you get an hour here and an hour there and it's just annoying. So it protects them from being abused. And generally what that means is that the managers are more organized and they, instead of giving you 3 2-hour jobs, they line them all up so you get 1 6-hour job and they are more organized as a result.
That's what I'm judging, the lack of efficiency of the manager, to be perfectly frank, and then the power of the unions to have negotiated all that, because often it's a 3-hour shift as a minimum, whatever. But anyway, all that aside, what we're talking about right now.
Remind me what the original question was because I went off on a tangent. I apologize.
Extrinsic motivation becoming intrinsic.
So if it aligns, so the reward, so Michael gets paid really well for going to work. There is a reward-based extrinsic, so there's a pressure-based, he has to work, he has to pay our bills, because I'm not. Somebody has to pay it.
Is that autonomy or is that?
Well, no, it's not autonomy. That's what I'm saying. Somebody, it's an extrinsic we get bills and they need to be paid. There's an extra, and my wife is expensive. Like, I'm just playing through his, and his wife is very expensive. His daughter is quite expensive as well. The boys are not quite so expensive, but all of us. So all of this is external factors and rewards, punishments, and you can kind of decide which way it goes in terms of, is it a reward or a punishment?
Probably both.
Which is why I couldn't decide. I'm like, I feel like that swings both ways. But he's internalized it. So he's like, okay, well, I need to pay the bills, but I choose to pay the bills. Like, he's delighted to provide for me and the kids, and he's delighted to provide. He chooses to provide for his family, and he feels like he has choice in that. So he knows he has a choice, and he chooses to provide. It's not an obligation. I mean, it could go to obligation and not have autonomy, but he's changed his perception around it. And this is how we can help as coaches. If we can change their perception around it, because we always have choice. He has a choice to not provide. I don't know how that would play out. And I think there'd be far more punishments creeping in if that was the way it went. But he feels like he has a sense of choice. I choose to do this. He is really good at his job. His competence levels are off the scales, and he frequently is validated for it, not necessarily by his employers, but by the minions. And I don't like using that word, but by the minions that ring him to find out. So he's on everyone in the company's speed dial. I've got this problem, you'll know how to solve it. So his competence is very well validated. And he gets to play with people playing trains. Like, he has high relatedness with his workmates. They all love what they do, with the exception of maybe one or two in a company of 60 or something. So that he's got the relatedness. So all three of those are there. So it's an extrinsic, I have to pay the bills, that he is then internalized to, I love my job, I love what I do. And he would drive trains for no money. But if they didn't pay him, he'd have to find some other way to get the money. So he's happy to accept the reward of, here's some money, so that he doesn't have to find something else to do with his time to pay the bills. So that extrinsic motivation has become intrinsic.
The way I see it, we all have bills to pay. It's how we choose to
relate to it, how we choose to perceive it.
Yeah, well, and also how we choose to do it. So whether we choose to drive trains, or whether we choose to, I don't know, do something that he might hate. I have no idea what that is, sort of thing. But
he's such a, and this is his words, just so that I'm not misunderstood. He is such a happy idiot. He would love he loved carpet laying. If he had to stack shelves in Coles, he would find a way to love that. If he had, I mean, he used to go out carpet laying and have to clean up sewage messes, like where toilets had exploded and flowed onto carpet, and disgusting stuff. And he just loves it. He is a happy, and I think it's because he has such a strong perception of choice. His autonomy is off the scale. He is
it would be
so
worth unpacking
aware.
that strategy, because that would be fantastic to have.
I've tried over the years. He's not very good at unpacking his strategies. I'm happy to try again, but I don't like my chances. He chooses to love whatever he's doing, which is I'm choosing to do this and I'm going to choose to love it, which is autonomy on steroids. He chooses to become exceptionally, like if he was a shelf packer, he would be the best shelf packer within a week. He has a really strong drive to be good at what he does and the competency levels. And then the relatedness, he'd find somebody else doing it to connect with, and he makes friends with everybody. So wherever he is, he will always have relatedness. I'm far more judgmental and far more critical about who I play with, but and he's in those arenas, he's highly motivated.
Would it be like part thereof choosing to like connecting the relatedness to the thing? So I don't know where I was going with that. So if, for example, whatever the task may be, perhaps in his strategy, because he's connecting it and making it relatable, that's why it's he's
Yeah, so
motivated, like he's got the autonomy to do it?
his relatedness. So when I look, so I sort by difference with exception with the meta program. So there's difference with exception, difference, sameness, and sameness with exception. I sort through difference with exception. So I do difference first, and then I find sameness to restore some level of relatedness. Michael sorts on sameness. Full stop.
Okay, no exceptions. Okay.
No exceptions. That's his filter. I can point out exceptions and he will reframe them to sameness, which is insane making for me, but very healthy for him. So if he walks into
yeah, go on.
If he walks into, I'm coming to an example. If he walks into a room, it's often worth reminding me to give an example. If he walks into a room of 50 people, he will tell you we're all in this room. And instantly he's got relatedness. We're all in this room. And I'm like, yeah, we're all in this room, but there's all of these different things that brought us here. And she's slightly taller than me, and she's shorter. No, none of us are the same. And that's where and he looks at me, he's like, we're all in the room, we're the same. And so his ability to create relatedness, because he's only looking at what's the same. We're all shelf packers. If he's in a room of men, we all want to provide for our wives. And he will delete and distort. So if someone says, well, I don't want to provide for my wife.
I'm not married or whatever. Yeah,
I'm not married. Well, we've all got penises if I'm in a room of men. Like he's going to go to... he's going to go to the common... and if he's in a mixed gendered room, we've all got two eyes. And then there's someone that without it, and I guarantee he has this innate ability of going to the common denominator and not seeing any of the exceptions. And like I said, I can hear the contempt and annoyance because it drives me insane. But in terms of being able to form relatedness and being inspired and motivated and happy and satisfied in life, it works amazingly for him. Don't tell him that, though. He doesn't need to know how wonderful he is. He already has a strong enough ego around that.
He's got confidence in his...
he's got confidence in his self-esteem. And yeah, so the relatedness. And if you think about the trainings that some of us have been to, actually, Jodie, you would have experienced this as well with the training we did together. When we come in, it's like you're all here for the same reason. You're all here growing a business. And there's this moment of, but it's even just that you're all here. That's the facilitator. You all showed up today. And it doesn't matter why. And I've seen facilitators do this. I was like, you've all shown up today. You're all going to have your own reasons. You're all unique in this, but really you're all on you're all on the journey together. That's them attempting to, and we can't give relatedness to someone, but we can certainly help reshape their perception of the world to give them the best shot at relatedness. And that opening kind of challenges all of my beliefs. What were you going to add, Jodie?
Yeah, so we're all on the same page.
Yeah. Yep. And the easiest way to do that is to go to the biggest common denominator. You're all in this room together. No one can argue that. Like if you come from you are all in this together, in this container together. We are all on this Zoom meeting together right now.
So would that be the same? So I'm thinking in terms of my husband, I reckon he is sameness, because it's like, we're all having lunch, so therefore you should all eat what I like. Like it's, as in,
not sure if that's autonomy there.
No, but not to that. He doesn't do it in the sense. Yeah, he doesn't do it in the sense like you need to eat what I like. It's. I think. Look, I was listening more for the delete, distort, right? The deletion. So he makes his lunch every night, and for the next day, and then occasionally I'll say, "Can you just make the kids?" Because you're already taking 2 pieces of bread. Just take another, 4. Just make 3 sandwiches. And when he does that, I guarantee you it comes out wrong every single time when he knows what they want. But when I say it comes out wrong, it comes out his, like, or version, like slightly different. And then, or if I ask him for something, like he'll make breakfast and I might have it slightly different, it comes back with his flavor of way things should be. And it's like, I don't want lemon on it. I never like lemon on it.
So
But
he
it
likes
just-
eggs well done, and you like yours runny. The eggs are well done because that's how he likes it. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, but not because he doesn't want to. It's just, I think he deletes it.
Yeah, the downside of everyone is the same is that everyone and Michael does the same thing. So when he cooks dinner, everyone gets exactly the same. I've finally managed to convince him not to give us all the same amounts.
Yes, there's that too.
We're different sized people.
Very, yes, very, when it comes to fairness, I would put it down to fairness. But everything, like if there's a packet of 10 peanuts in the bloody packet, he will divide that. But it's not, it's just, so everything is like sameness.
Yeah, so there's lots of factors here. But the downside is that assumption when we only filter through sameness, everyone must be the same as me. And even when exceptions, so for Michael, even when exceptions are presented, he deletes them and distorts them. He's getting better in the same way that I'm getting better at not just going for differences to such an extent. I reckon originally I was just differences, not differences with exception, which is progress and growth on my part. I was just differences,
What would be
which is a
differences with exception?
Well, so differences is, so if I was filtering through that, so everyone's wearing something different today. Like we're all of our screens are different. We've all shown up from different places, and I can list out the differences with exception that we all showed up today. So we're all unique and different, except that we all showed up to this Zoom meeting.
Right,
And in that way, we're all the same.
Yeah.
Whereas, and so sameness with exception would be we've all shown up to this meeting today, but we've all come from different places. Like we're all streaming in from different places. I think we're all in the same time zone, but that would be another one that you could do. It's like we're all coming in to Zoom today, but we're all coming from different time zones. Because I think we're all on the same time zone, so that doesn't work. But that would be an example. And they're simply direction filters. They're simply, are we focused on differences first or are we focused on sameness first? And then are we open to the exceptions? So Michael is pure sameness, and it's really hard to creep an exception through. What I've learned for myself, because the differences was making me miserable. And if we look at it through the self-determination theory, it makes sense. If everything I walk into, I see the differences between me and it, there's no relatedness. So differences with exceptions, I have a better hope of feeling relatedness and being more motivated and inspired.
So at the risk of looking for the black and white and an unresourceful question of what's the sort of the best filter to be looking at things through?
You know my answer to this.
Yeah, it depends. Well, I'm hearing for greater relatedness, it's the sameness and perhaps with exceptions or whatever.
Difference with exception and sameness are probably the build. And my answer is always going to be, what's the outcome you want? So what's the best filter? Depends on what's the outcome you want. Because if the outcome you want is miserable and never feeling motivated and uninspired, then just differences and pointing out how everyone is different and you suck and your competency, that will achieve depressed, miserable, and bitchy.
Is anyone really actively seeking that outcome?
I don't think anybody's seeking that, but I know that that's the result you get with that because I've lived it. There is a time for differences though. So there's pros and cons to all of them. So sameness gives relatability, but it also creates frustration in the people around you because they all get the same sandwich as you and your preferences aren't taken into account, and you'll get back hostile responses.
So what I'm hearing is it potentially removes that autonomy, and whilst you might have the relatedness, you may not have the autonomy.
The other person
has a Vegemite.
Won't have the autonomy. Yeah. So you'll demotivate the people around you, And then eventually you will not be motivated to do stuff because they're no longer motivated and you lose the relatedness. It's one of the easiest ways that people are used to relating is relating through problem. It's far easier for everybody to sit and bitch about a problem than it is, and it's far harder to find people that are going out there and taking action. And that may or may not be accurate because I have a difference filter. And is it really harder to find people that are taking action, or is my difference filter getting in the way of me seeing that that's what other people can relate to me through? But there's a time for noticing differences. So the benefit of differences, so the disadvantage of differences is the relatability, and it makes it hard. The benefit of differences is that it makes it really easy for me to see someone's uniqueness. It makes it really easy for me to point out, oh my God, you're exceptional at this. I could never do that. We're so different in this. You are amazing.
And I also think for innovation, differences is better. Otherwise, you've got groupthink and everyone's just a clone of each other and there's no real growth. It's just, yeah.
So the ideal is we have access to all of them.
Yeah.
The ideal is not that we pick which is the one best filter. The ideal is that we recognize there are multiple filters and restore the deletions, which is why I've moved from differences to differences with exception. Now for Michael, and I think he probably is more than I'm giving him credit, but his default is sameness. But sameness with exception. So for example, he doesn't try and feed me coffee. So we're the same. We both like to start the day with a hot beverage, but Amy likes tea and I like coffee, and he's happy to have that exception rather than trying to give me coffee. I don't know what would happen if he gave me coffee, particularly black coffee, because I'm just not a fan. So
I think Simon's exception now is still asking, do you want lemon? That's the exception. He doesn't just give it, he asks. So I accept.
Yeah, so there's that progression from we're all the same. So
say
you
that.
then accept. Well, no, there's a whole conversation there around you being able to be willing to say no. But ideally we want to, and this for me is the purpose of coaching. The purpose of coaching is to restore the deletions. So if you're coaching me, remind me to look for the exceptions. Like if I'm coming with differences, oh my God, we're so different. And you've heard me, probably all of you heard me say this about my relationship. Michael and I think so differently. What are the exceptions? I don't know what the exceptions are, but I've embraced that we think so differently. And I leverage his. If I can't find it myself, I leverage his ability to see sameness. And so sometimes it's connecting with it in ourselves, sometimes it's finding it in someone else. But the ideal is to pick any set of filters, any model, and restore the deletions. Well, I feel, and I've seen this with coaching clients, but before I really played with the self-determination, this is my choice. This is entirely my choice. Why am I not motivated? They have autonomy, but based on this, do they have competence? Do they have relatability? And often it's like, well, I've got autonomy and I've got other people on the journey. Yeah, are those other people on the journey taking action, or are they bitching? Because the moment you start taking action, you destroy relatability if you're surrounded by people that are just bitching. If you're surrounded by people that are taking action, then taking action keeps you fitting in, and that sense of belonging and the relatedness is there. But if you don't have the competence, the moment you get in and start doing it, particularly if relatedness is feeling a little bit low, oh, this is too hard, I'm out. Like my motivation, I tried to set up an Instagram account for a new business venture that Michael and I are doing. And I hit 3 barriers in a row. Now, I would think that my competence of setting up a friggin' social media account was reasonably good. However, I hit 3 obstacles in a row, and Michael wasn't helping me. So I didn't have relatedness. I didn't have competence for something that really, and my perception of competence was really shattered. It's like, this should be friggin' easy. And then it wasn't. And so I'm like, yeah, whatever. It was autonomous. I wanted to, but I lost competence. And then I didn't have a huge amount of relatedness, and there's my motivation gone. And so the 3 of these together, but it becomes how we restore the deletions. Clients come, and coaching clients do it all the time. Like because I work with coaches, they come and it's an I want to, and I've got autonomy. Like, they don't necessarily say autonomy, but all of their language is like, I'm choosing this, and I desire this, and I'm willing to do the work, and all of these things. And yet they're not motivated for some reason. What's their level of competency, and what's their level of relatedness? I really want to do this, but every time I talk to my husband, he bags me out for it. Well, there's relatedness has just gone down a notch in the scoreboard. I talked to the other coaches at my coach training school, and they're all doing, like, they're all gathering this amazing information, and they're all studying really hard, but none of them are taking action. Like, we all want to just like learn a little bit more before we work with a client. You're not going to be motivated because the competence is in there, and the relatedness, the way to relate is that I'm scared of that. And so the autonomy can be off the charts. And so the purpose of the models is to restore the deletion. It doesn't matter which model you give me. It's the same, Christy, for the which is better, sameness or difference. Both is my short answer that it's taken me 15 minutes to get out. But the short answer is both. There isn't a better. There is restore the deletions and see the whole picture, and then make a decision, then move forward, then tap into motivation. In terms of what makes you happy, pick up a different model, self-determination, autonomy, competence, relatedness. That's the pathway to happiness, according to them. But I have 20 other models that are the pathway to happiness. Pick one.
Next week. Well, I was thinking too, with listening to all of this around, and I'm having a meta mindfuck moment around
Perfect.
because as I was thinking through what am I going to say, it's so I think it's quite common for I'll say generally women to criticize men of not doing the housework properly, and then men don't do it, and then we complain that, and then I'm saying that language, I'm saying sameness there, right? With that filter that I'm saying, women do this and we're all the same.
Yeah, there's a level of sameness in the women.
That was the mindfuck moment. Okay, there's that, because I'm like, which one am I? Because I think that I'm doing differentiation with the mismatching, but then I'm like, well, what's actually playing out anyway?
We can play with that. I don't know off the top of my. It's not a filter I normally pay attention to closely. It's a fairly insignificant filter in terms of the hierarchy of filters. In my mind, maybe it needs to be more significant. Sorry, what were you going to add, Frederic?
No, I was just listening to Christy, which I thought, even when I'm hearing you speak earlier, I think I'm very much differences, and difference with the exception, because even just as soon as you said that, for me, it's like, well, no, not in my house. Like,
yeah, and I heard that with your thing too, because it's the opposite in your house.
Yeah.
Which it seems to be, which I found
cooking, cleaning, it's the opposite in my house. Like, he loves to
give
cook.
me some of that. Like, Jesus. Anyway,
I mean, I
It's
cook,
the opposite in my house too.
but he loves to cook.
so maybe
the
I'm the
choice-
weird one. How do I need to look at my choices. Yeah.
The other thing that I heard, sorry, Frederic.
You're right. No, I was done. Yeah.
The other thing I heard, Christy, bringing it back to the self-determination, was we criticize and condemn them and then wonder why they're not motivated.
Yeah, so that was my point.
Which I thought was your point, but we're stripping them of competence, or their perception of competence. There's a TikTok, not TikTok because I don't do TikTok, it's like an Instagram sound, and it's got the no man wanted to be married. No man in this room ever wanted to be married, because being married, and I'm going to discredit the original comedian that's saying it, but everyone's picked it up, and there's like 50 different versions of it that I've seen. No man wants to be married because no man wanted to be questioned on everything they do. Why are you parking here? This isn't where we should be. And just this voice creeping in. I'll see if I can find it. I'll share it into the group. But instantly I hear in that, it's that we're stripping them of autonomy. Do it my way. We're stripping them of autonomy. We're stripping them of competence. Their perception of, it's like, I think I can park a car. I think I can choose a parking spot, but you keep telling me that I can't. maybe I can't, and their perception of competence decreases, because all of this is about perception. We all have autonomy. We all have choice. We all have choice all the time. We know that as coaches. In every moment, in everything we do, we are at cause. We have choice. Are we aware of it? Do we perceive it? Or do we perceive that we have no choice? And based on my feelings over the past week, where 90% of the time I'm like, what am I feeling in response to this? I feel compelled. That's the feeling that has come up most as I've been reflecting on my feelings. Compelled is not autonomy. Compelled is the opposite of autonomy. And I'm noticing the feelings like I feel compelled. And then I remind myself, well, I might feel compelled, but I have choice. I can choose to respond to this or walk away. And yet I still feel compelled to respond to it. And I'm still stuck in that's not impacting me because I'm aware and I'm reframing myself to, I have a choice. So in terms of autonomy, I'm reminding myself constantly, which is why it's not depressing me and sucking the life out of me. I know I have autonomy. I have to remind myself frequently that I have choice. The more I remind myself I have choice, the less I hate my life. Competence is something that can be built, but it's also worth checking in. Where do I already have competence? I can't do that thing, but what can I do? Like on a scale of whatever it is, there's always something that I'm competent at. What have we already done? What have we already accomplished? I have heaps of competency. I also have a huge capacity to learn, as do all of us. We can all learn. I have the competency in learning. If I remind myself that I have competency in learning, then the incompetency in whatever I'm trying to do becomes irrelevant because I'm focused on where I have competency in learning. It's all just perspective shifts. So now I've got autonomy and competence. Then you make me start looking at, well, we're all human. I should be able to relate through that instantly in my mind. Even saying it though, I'm like, yeah, but we're all different. And so that's the one, the relatedness is the one that I'm still growing on, but it's all perception. And this is where we can help our clients massively.
So it's become aware of their reception, helping them become aware of their perception.
Yes.
And increase that perception or change it to the
change the perception. You'll change
the perception, restore their deletions through,
yes,
depending what filter they come through in regards to relatedness, whether it's sameness, differences.
Well, sameness and differences all apply to everything. So you can pick up any filter. So in terms of relatedness, you could go sameness, difference. There's another model that just came into abundance or scarcity would be another one. I don't have relatedness. I've only got 3 really good friends. And if they're looking at that as a scarcity versus an abundance, I've only got 3 really close friends. Now I've only got, and I'm deliberately saying it that way, so I've only got, you can hear the scarcity, and I've only got versus, oh my God, I am so blessed, privileged, and I'm struggling with what word to put in there, but I am so blessed or privileged, or I have 3 really good friends and they are amazing. They are my lifeline. They are on this journey of life. And you can hear that big abstraction. They're not running businesses. They're not doing the same thing, but we're all on the journey of life together. We're all 7 billion people we're all on the journey of life together. So the higher up we go in abstraction, the easier it is to create the relatedness.
And there's another thing I do on different parts of my cycle.
Yes, some days it's easier to be big picture, and part of the cycle we're far more detailed.
And then the other part of this, some part of this, there's a part of the cycle where we go into for me, I go into scarcity.
Yep.
And then go back into abundance.
Yep. And so with our clients and even with ourselves, so in the different, our preferences shift, and mine do too, Frederic. I mapped all of the meta programs across my menstrual cycle just to see where I am in different parts and what, because I tend to geek out. Christy's laughing at my complexity.
When you say you've mapped the meta programs, what do you mean by that?
Well, so I sat down, so you just said you do scarcity at 1 and abundance in a different time. I sat down with all 21 of the meta programs and worked out which ones were easier for me in the different phases.
I like that geek out.
Yeah.
She says like it's a normal thing that everyone does.
Are we all the same? Haven't you done that too? But in any moment, and it's not which is better, it's just which one's coming first, and then how do we restore the deletions? So I know in my deep luteal, I am going to be focused on scarcity, I'm going to be focused on difference, and I'm going to be focused on details. And gently restoring me to, actually, it's abundant, there's a big picture here, and I can't remember what the other one I just shared was, to share the contrast, but it's just looking for the contrast. And this is what we do with ourselves and with our clients. All right, well, I'm really focused on, I did it the other night in a conversation with you, Christy, where we were talking about the cognitive functions and and I was actually deliberately limiting myself because my extroverted intuition was answering the question. And I'm like, please don't go down that rabbit hole. Like that's now. So there was a conscious, I really want to access my introverted sensation, which is the counter of the extroverted intuition. So I was deliberately flipping the filters that I was applying. Because extroverted intuition, I wasn't trying to shut it. Well, I was trying to shut it down. It was never going to get shut down completely. It had already shared far enough of its opinion that I had that. And I'm just like, now I need to access. So it's just, so the purpose of models is to understand how to restore the deletions. So are they coming from a thinking perspective or a feeling perspective? Is it internal? Is it external? And I can, and then sensation versus intuition. But the purpose of any model in coaching through my map is to shape how we restore the deletions. Well, I have autonomy, but I'm not motivated. Well, what about relatedness? What about competency? I know I don't have either of them. Well, there's why you're not motivated. So we're restoring the deletion. But I don't have either of them is probably not necessarily accurate. It's how are you creating that you don't have relatedness? It always fascinates me when I'm talking with a client and they say, no one ever listens to me. And there's a piece of me that wants to go, what the fuck am I, chopped liver? Like, and I've never said that to a client. But there is this moment of no one in my life is building a business. Hello. I had a client, and Christy, you'll probably know who this is, and I think it's probably okay, but none of my coach friends are married. And I'm just sitting there and I'm like, are you kidding? Like, hello. And sometimes, and that one I did. I was like, are you kidding me? Do I not count in this? And I did actually challenge it directly because I had that relationship. But those massive generalizations, but that's an easy way to store relatedness. So it's never, is there relatedness or not? It's just which filter are we using? There are 7 billion people on the planet. You can't tell me that there's not someone doing what you're doing. Are you paying attention to them? And that's the question. It's like, no, well, everyone in my life. Well, then go on to TikTok. I don't know why I keep saying TikTok. Go on to Instagram.
Because you can't get the account on Instagram, maybe that.
She's
I don't have an account on TikTok either. But go anywhere. Go anywhere and search for how many people are out there growing businesses. How many, there was a post this morning, and I know I'm now in full rant mode and I will tone myself down in a second. There's a post this morning, and she said, if you're doing something that no one has ever done before, and my instant response, and this is my mismatch or indifferences, I'm like, what the hell can you find to do in this world that no one has done before? You have a goal and you're pioneering. I'm like, what are you doing? We've been to the moon. There is nothing that I can. Are you going to the sun? I'd advise against that. Like, but this concept that no one has done what we're doing, because I had self-determination theory in my mind, she's like, you don't need people that have done what you've done. I'm like, yes, you do. But the concept that no one has done what we want to do is, and it's if you're doing something highly specific. So no one has ever created an online program with my husband. Like if I'm so specific, no one has ever created an online program with my husband. But have people created online programs? Yes. Have people created online programs with their husbands? Yes. Have people created online programs about relationships? Yes. So that as much as I can generalize, no one's created an online program about relationships with my husband. The ridiculous of no one's done this before. I don't know, I'm like just super passionate and ranty now. But we need relatedness. We need to find the people. I'm watching, there's a couple that and they're not a couple, they're like two male friends that I watch, the cinema therapy, which I know we've talked about a little bit in this. They've done what I want to do. They've created a conversational based approach, talking about reviewing stuff. They have conversations, they record it, they put it into an online platform. They've done it. They haven't done it with my husband, and they haven't done it with my 167 models from 3P Club, but they've done it near enough too that I can be inspired by that. Have they done it the way that I'm going to do it? No, because I'm going to add my uniqueness. I'm going to add my flair. The example this woman gave was, I let my son put his face in the water first at the ocean. I'm like, he is not the first person to put his face in the ocean. And even of the two of you, he was probably not the first. He was the first in that moment and in that instance. And I'm just like, the ridiculousness of the metaphor. Yeah, I'll stop ranting now. Somebody else jump in and share passionately or enthusiastically so I don't feel like I've taken over the entire thing.
No, it makes sense for me in terms of like, I say, I know I do this, there's got to be a way, like,
yeah, there's got to be a way, and someone else has probably done it.
I don't, because like, for example, I know we built out in our entrance, it's a load bearing wall, so I learned, but I had a mirror about the size of pretty much 3/4, pretty much the whole wall, about half the wall, right? And we got the mirror for next to nothing. I bought it, and it's probably worth like thousands of dollars. I want to do something with the mirror. For 2 years, it's sat in our bedroom on the floor. And my husband's like, we've got to get rid of it. I'm like, no, because I know I want to put it on that wall. It's got to be done. But I didn't want it just placed on the wall. I wanted it recessed in the wall. I wanted it to have like a
original load-bearing walls are pain in the neck.
Well, yeah. Well, so then he's
possible,
competent.
and other people have done it.
So in my mind, the autonomy is there because I'm like, we can do this. We've got this. We meaning you. Relatedness, because he's got a
your husband's autonomy is not there.
Well, his autonomy was there, but the competence. So he was like, this can't be done. Looking at it as it can't. Whereas like for me, it was like it can be done. It must be. There is a way. It's got to be, and so by me keeping that autonomy and that it can be done, he then eventually 2 years later,
the relatedness sometimes takes a while to kick in.
He found a way to make it happen. Like, so he started to, rather than looking at that it can't be done and the reasons why it can't be done, it started to shift. And I'm like, there's got to be a way. Like, I'm telling you, this can be done. People have mirrors in their walls. And then he started to find a different way where he built the wall out instead. But the thought, because I remember saying to him, I go, it's not going to come to you if you keep looking at the can'ts. Like, I can't come up with it because I'm not, but I did. I came up with all these different ideas. And eventually it's like, we can do this. I'm like, yay, it's done. So, yeah.
Yeah, so the thing with relatedness, and it's hard to maintain it, if we maintain our stand, and this time frame can be long, if we eventually they want the relatedness and they will find the way to have the relatedness. But we have to not cave to the it can't be done. So there's the disparity there. Was there someone else that you were relying on for relatedness in that, Frederick? Like, did you was there an image of someone else has done this, or did you just hold on to that thought of it's got to be possible and someone else must have done this? Like, I'm just wondering how you maintained the motivation without the relatedness from your husband. Did you get it from somewhere else?
I just got it from whatever my mind was telling me. Like, it was from seeing, like, say when you go, people have recesses in their wall.
Yeah.
And he's telling me,
So you've got references of other, so you had the relatedness of other people have done this.
Yeah.
I'm not going to buy into you, or I can't, because you'd seen other people have done this. You didn't know them personally necessarily, but there was other people have done this. It has to be possible. So you had relatedness with the invisible other people.
Yeah, but then there was no, when you told me about giving me facts about the competence side, like the the load
there are people
bearing
that have done it with load bearing walls as well, and you just
but I didn't know of that. The thing that
yeah.
held on to it was because where I held on to the relatedness of it was, I heard when he started to not doubt it, but he wasn't holding the ground on his, well, it can't be done on a load bearing wall. He started to think outside of
there
it.
you've got
And
the
then I'm like, well, hang on a minute. If you're already questioning it, then it can't be done. So judging on his competence, like having the full thing that, you're a carpenter, you do this. This is your job.
You saw more competence in him than he saw in himself.
Yeah.
And this is one of the things that we do as coaches so often, and as parents and as managers and all of those things, is that we see so Michael frequently will say to me, I don't know how to lead. I'm like, bullshit. You do know how to lead. I see that in you. I see his competence as far higher than he does. And so when we can then help them shift their perception of, you've got this, and you actually have more of this than you realize, we're shifting their perception on competence, which is what it sounds like you did, Frederick. You saw, this is what you do. You've got the competence I believe in you, whether you believe in you or not. And I'm going to hold on to. And then at some point, you probably backed down just enough to make him feel like it was an autonomous choice. Or he reframed that I have to do this for my wife to I want to do this for my wife. And so there you get the autonomy. He's got the competence and the perception of, okay, well, maybe I can do this. And then the relatedness of wanting to be with you and hang out with you. And other people have done it. All of that. But it's a perception shift as much as anything else, because nothing external changed. He didn't go and learn how to do it. He just worked it out. So nothing external changed. It's just the perception changed and the motivation increased. And that's how we use this to help clients. We don't have to give them autonomy. We don't have to give them competence. We don't have to give them relatedness. We just have to help them see that they already have it.
And that's an example from the external to the internal, isn't it?
Yeah. So if I think about Christy's work with employees, it's helping them see that they have it. And how you do that's going to vary from person to person based on their filters, based on all kinds of things. But everyone is in the workplace from a place of choice. They have a choice to stay or leave. They all do. They'll tell you they don't. I have to work because I have to pay my bills. Yeah, but there's 50 other jobs you could go and get. You don't have to work here. You have a choice. You choose to show up every day, and helping them see that, probably slightly softer than my language and my tone just then, but helping them to see that everyone is showing up here every day. Like all of your workmate, there is relatedness. And at the moment, knowing what's going on in your workplace, Christy, without giving away any details, but everyone is feeling uncertain with all of these changes, or everyone is being faced with these changes. If you take out the uncertain, because it's a bit of a mind read, but everyone is being faced with these changes. You're not unique, you're not special. All of us are in this employee environment right now. And the higher up we go, the easier it is to create relatedness. And the easiest way to do it is with literal stuff. You are standing in this office right now. We are all, everyone is in this office right now. There is relatedness. We're all in this room to learn to grow, and you can start to plant seeds. Maybe they're not there to learn and to grow, but I'm going to tell you that we're all in here to learn and to grow. And I want to fit in. I'll step in to learn and to grow. So you can start to navigate it. And but you want to see if you get buy-in on that. We're all in here to learn and grow. George, I noticed that you don't appear to be in here to learn and grow. What are you here for? And then you just go back to, we're all in here. And the more you can find the commonalities and the more detailed those commonalities, the higher the relatability would be. Like, we are all here because we want to learn and grow. I think I can say that and get back some level of nods and not, I'm not here to learn and grow. Like, that would be weird in this conversation. And I'm open to it, but I feel like, and if there's someone that's not here to learn and grow, we're all here in this room. We're all coaches on some level. Coaches, consultants, trainers, mentors, whatever your flavor of serving or service-based providers. There's our relatedness. And we all, at least on some level, maybe love is too strong a word, but we all have an interest in models. Because I want to say we all love models, but maybe love is too strong a word. We all have an interest in models. Because my I am obsessed with and love models may not quite project to, but we all have an interest in models, or you wouldn't be here. Yeah, very cool conversation. Thank you. Any final thoughts or insights or questions?
Just I have used this from my health perspective, like increasing going to the gym, finding the group PT sessions and having that relatability, and also reframing my belief around I'm a fit person, help shape my competence as well, rather than going, I can't run, I can't do this and all this other sort of shit. Yeah, I found that those aspects have really impacted my motivation.
It's so important, and I am not the person for this for health, but it's so important to find the people that are taking the action and making and moving towards, rather than just finding the people that are indulged in the problem. So it's really easy to find people that are indulged in the problems, but if we want to make progress, we have to find the people that are indulging in making progress and celebrating progress. And sometimes we need the people on that same journey. So having a mentor is great, but the people on the journey is where we'll get more relatability, particularly if we're difference filtered. Like, I look at the people that have done it, I'm like, yeah, but I'm not you. I do much better finding the people on the journey, because they're far more relatable to me. I'm in the trenches, I'm doing these things, I'm building my competence, rather than I have this competence, because I don't relate to the person that has competence in the thing that I'm learning. I want to learn from them and I need access to them, but to maintain my motivation, I need the people on the journey. I need to have other people that are learning and in the trenches doing the work. And that's what I'm hearing from you, Christy. It's not just have the personal trainer who's a size 4 and looks amazing, or even whatever. It's have other people that get breathless doing the workouts, have other people that are struggling and moving forward at the same time. Because if you've just got the people that are struggling, you'll stay stuck in the struggling to maintain the relatability. So it's find the people that are on the journey and connect with them. It's so key. Beautiful. Any other thoughts? Any other key takeaways or insights?
All except it's super cool. This is really good.
Yes, but I'm thinking Frederique's got something to say, but yeah.
Well, I was just thinking in regards, what came when you said that last bit, because I was thinking over the last, I've been in this space of, for myself in terms of my coaching, where am I go? What do I want for clients and everything? And with what you said, it's funny because I was thinking, like, I'm redoing my health at the moment. I'm about to go on the journey of, solidly going back into that. And when I was thinking of that about a week ago, I'm thinking, I wonder. So I was thinking, because what I normally do is I get to about halfway, and then I let people know and I'm in it, right? And even with what I shared on a couple Sundays, probably on Sunday, Christy, what I shared, like what you guys had said, that'd be great to share that with people, because I shared that model that the ClickUp thing that I had, right? So then I'm sort of thinking in terms of my avatar and where I am into my coaching, I've learned a lot. I've got heaps about human behavior. I know a lot of models. And so is it better, like, to come from a space of, if you want to better understand yourself, if you want to go on this journey, well, then join me, as opposed to like, so be in the space of come and join me and let's go in that space together. But yet I can still support you and help you because I've got like, yeah, I don't know, like that's sort of where my thoughts were going.
So in terms of marketing, I'm not going to go into it too much in this because it's an outside of
that's where
the behavior, but the model I use for marketing is aligned, aspirational, and leveraged. So where are you the same as your clients? And my clients' experience, I am flawed, I am fucked up, I am on this journey, I'm trying new things, and so we're aligned in that. I'm a lifelong learner, I'm constantly learning new things, we're aligned in that. There's a curiosity. So I know for my ideal client, they must have either curiosity or lifelong learning in their top. So I use VIA strengths as my gauge for this. And I've got a session that I run people through around this to help them understand it. But where are we the same? Because people want relatability.
Yeah.
Where are we the same? So what's aligned? Where am I a step ahead of you that you want to take that step and become like that, or 20 steps or whatever it is? It's the aspirational.
Yeah.
So I see this and I want to be like that. And then we've got the leveraged. I really value, so I get feedback. So in the beginning, I thought what my clients wanted from me was to teach them how to think like me. And they don't. My clients want me to think like me so they can be like me and have like the aspirational isn't my critical thinking. And I always thought it was. I thought they want to learn how to do the critical thinking. They don't want to learn how to do that. They want to learn how to help clients. They don't want to learn how to dissect. And Christy just then was such a great example of, oh my God, you went to the extent of putting your meta programs across your menstrual cycle. I admire that, but I don't want to fucking do it. Like it just, that is a leverage. So you've done that. Let me leverage that. Send me that spreadsheet.
Just do it for me. Yeah.
So
how do I apply it to mine now? Yeah.
Yeah. So there's the aligned, we are the same. There's the aspirational, fuck, I wish I was more like you in this arena. And then there's the leveraged, I admire that, but you keep it and do it for me. And so those three things, and then they shape our marketing message. Now, there's way more I could go into on that. If you want to do a one-on-one session, Frederick, we can talk about it. But that's the model that I'm looking at. What's aligned, what's aspirational, what's leveraged. So aligned is I'm on this journey of life. I have struggles. I have moments of growth. I have whatever it is, which would be you sharing your health journey. And speaking through, and I like the VIA strengths because it speaks through the values. These are the values we have. So interestingly, I put a post up yesterday. I'm like, where are my fellow lifelong learners? What are you learning? And I got crickets. And I'm like, part of that's the Facebook algorithm. But part of that is, to some degree, people want to leverage my lifelong learner rather than be the life. They've got curiosity, but I'm learning more and more. They don't have the lifelong learning. They've got the curiosity that I want aligned. And then they want to leverage my judgment, critical thinking, using the VIA names for it. And I can't remember what my aspirational one is, but I've got it all mapped out in a color-coded spreadsheet with, I did research of 20 clients years ago and mapped out all of their VIA strengths and actually checked off. So I did like a marketing thing on this marketing session that I put together on aligned, aspirational, and leveraged. And they all gave me their VIA strengths, which gave me the opportunity to put down all of the people I'd attracted. And then I was scaling on who do I want to play with? Who do I not want to play with? And I was just comparing what's aligned, aspirational, what's leveraged. One of the values that is anti-aligned the opposite way is gratitude. So almost everyone that I love playing with has gratitude in their top 10 VIA strengths, and it's in my bottom 10. So it's misaligned, but I love working with them. And so they've got gratitude and I've got critical thinking, and they want to leverage my critical thinking, and I'm quite happy to accept their gratitude. Like, it's a really nice pairing and a reciprocity. So we're looking at what's aligned, what's complementary, and the aspirational and the leveraged comes in that complementary place. That makes sense.
Yeah, that's cool. I think you've done my VI strengths before.
I feel like we did that.
Yeah, we
process.
did do one
Might be worth
a while back.
revisiting if you wanted to.
Yeah, that's cool.
Let me know. Beautiful. Any ideas of what we want to talk about next week? Any preferences? And it's cool if there's not. I'll find something, but I'm open to.
I feel like I need the spreadsheet in front of me.
Yeah, I do.
But 5 voices, I think, came up as
Oh,
a
that
thought.
came up last week. Yes.
Jodie, did you have a thought? Sorry.
Yeah, I was. That's all right. I was thinking about the love languages.
We do love languages. We do 5 voices. Do you have a preference, Leanne or Frederic, between the two? I'm going to invite you not to add another one, because then we get 3 to decide from. So let's stay with the 5 love languages or 5 voices. No preference,
the
Frederic?
other way.
I was going to say, you was kind of like a moment of you didn't care. Leanne, do you have a preference?
I'm going to say the 5 voices.
Alrighty, we'll do that then. So there's a free profile. There's a
Where's Christy laughing?
Amy looks rapt with that idea.
5 love languages I can do in my sleep. 5 voices I'm going to have to study a little bit. That was the thinking process. That's okay. I have actually got the capacity this week to do that.
Embrace your love of learning.
Yeah, I do have the love of learning. I do have the curiosity. The other thing, so 5 love languages, I know I can
You have
find.
autonomy to say no, Amy.
I do have autonomy to say no. And I do have to, well, you're all choosing from my list. Like, if you're choosing from my list, the autonomy that you guys have on what to choose is kind of limited anyway. No, it was more, so there's an entire library that I binge watched for a month. And I'm like, how do I find a 20-minute video in the 40 hours of content? That was more my hesitation. Whereas 5 love languages, I know I could find an easy 20-minute video. I will find an easy 20-minute video and reacquaint myself with it. The 5 love languages I can teach, like I say, I can teach that in my sleep, but I know it. The 5 voices I didn't dive particularly deeply into, which is not a problem. It's just, that's what my hesitation is. It's not a lack of interest. It's just like, fuck, I'm going to actually have to work for this one, which is fine.
We could always look at doing 5 languages this, like, next week, and then the following week. So it gives you
We
time.
did that last week, and I gave myself time. You know that I don't.
Yeah.
It won't happen till the last minute person.
I'm the same, so I don't even know why I suggested it, but you know.
Yeah, so we could in theory, but the reality is that I still won't have done anything with it, and I would have to dive back in. I don't need to watch 2 weeks worth of content. It's just finding the 20-minute video. So when you do the 5 voices profile, you get access to their online platform. I also don't know what I have access to. So I got access to everything for 30 days, and I watched everything in that 30 days because I'm not obsessive at all. But I don't know what I've got access to free anymore because I didn't sign up to their paid program, so that you get a free access for 30 days and then it's a subscription service for their content. There's masses of content in there. There's also some stuff on Myers-Briggs in there for anyone still playing and toying with the Myers-Briggs stuff. We'll do 5 voices and I'll go in to the platform and see which video I recommend of the, like I said, masses of content in there. Sounds good. Thank you so much. I appreciate all of you. I'm loving these conversations. They really are delighting me. You're on mute, Leanne. Did you say something?
The puppy.
Oh.
Wait, what puppy?
It's Oscar.
Chris.
Jodie's
Oscar.
puppy.
Oh, the puppy.
Yeah, I was gonna say I
I was
agree. I'm
looking at-
enjoying the conversations too.
Fantastic. I'll have a look at Five Voices. The other hesitation with Five Voices is I can't remember how complicated it is, so I may narrow it down to just 2 or 3 pieces because I think it's a
Two
bit like
voices.
I think it no, as in like the 2 or 3 frames out of it. So I think it's a bit like Disc, and it's got a lot of meta programs happening in the profile.
I'm curious because I've done my quiz profile and I think I'm a pioneer connector or something, but I don't even know really what that means. So even just unpacking what those different things are,
Yeah.
you know, and what it means from my perspective, just that would be
I'm
useful.
super. Yeah, I'm keen now. No, we've been talking about it for the last couple of minutes.
Well, I
I'm
think
pioneer
Frederica, you and I mentioned it, and you
creative.
said you commented on 3. I'm like, what does any of this mean?
I
So
don't know. I just know I'm
if that
pioneer,
helps
connector, and
guide
creative.
videos,
Yeah, it'll be in the guide videos, but also if I can just I'll find what the key pieces are. So
if
the
you just decide to go, fuck it, I'll just steal it and do my own video and what you can watch that, like maybe.
Yeah, that may be asking more of me than
And
I'm willing to right now.
I'm the only pioneer connector creative in my business, in where I work. I'm the only pioneer connector creative. So it'll be interesting. This will be fun.
So
And relatability for me.
Is that in the 5 voices? Sorry,
what
my
was that?
voice is going a bit. Is that in the 5 voices that
Yeah.
you talk?
Yeah, so I'll share the link into the chat. So I'm a pioneer creative from memory. So I'm just looking at I'm looking at a sheet. So volume was one of them. So volume's one of the frames that they look through. And then values was another, and then past, present, and future. No, present and future. There's only present and future on that. So they're
Values would be cool to look at.
well, the different so on this screen it's got the champion of and what they champion.
What
which
do you
is
mean
what
by
I meant by the
volume? Is that
values
like
of
loudness?
how loud they are. So the pioneer is the loudest, which is no surprise to me. Pioneer, so in terms of volume, loudest to quietest is pioneer, connector, guardian, creative, nurturer. In that, so the nurturer is quieter, the creative is quieter, the guardian sort of sits in the middle, the connector in some ways aligns somewhat with the I energy, and then the pioneer somewhat with the D energy, but there was distinctions in there as well. So yeah, that's cool. I'll have a look. I'll find a video in there, and I'll share this.
That's already interesting. Pioneer connector is loud. Frederic.
Yes. Yeah. So high extrovert, which is not news, Frederic. You know that about yourself.
Yeah.
Very
Well, that's
true.
what I'm finding interesting. And then, I mean, like my boss, I think, is a nurturer, and he's at the other end of the spectrum. And I'm like, this is, you know, starting to join dots.
Yeah. So volume, and also tolerance of volume. So the nurturers prefer a more sedate, quiet conversation with room for everyone to think and breathe and express. And they wouldn't necessarily not like this conversation, but it would be a little bit outside of their regular comfort zone. If they were facilitating, it would be a lot slower paced than because my pioneer kicks in. My creative, every now and then, though, you will see me ponder momentarily. My pioneer well and truly leads, and the creative is in the background. So yeah, I think it'll be fun. We'll explore. There should be a video in there that goes through just enough to give us the dynamic of a conversation. And like I said, there's a ton of content in there. If you want to dive deeper and learn more about it, there's plenty of content in their platform. Their Sherpa program was their business program, which I did find very interesting, but it wasn't anything revolutionary in terms of what we've already learnt through business trainings that I know we've all done. And so there was nothing in there that kind of made me go, oh, this is different. This is going to be the key that helped. It's like, no, this is pretty much all the same as, like, there were key insights and I liked the way it was presented. I liked the presenters, but there was nothing that made me go, I need to fork out $400 a month to be a part of their membership. Having done so much business training. If someone hadn't ever done business training, it would be something that I would recommend. Cool. Any questions? Any other insights, or are we done? Looks like we're done. Fantastic. Look forward to seeing you next week.
Thank you.
All right.
Great.
Bye.
Thanks. See you.